here we are.
One thing that should make you feel a little bit better is that the Pfizer and Moderna, the mRNA vaccines, this is an extremely flexible technology. So if we get something that's like the Delta variant in Sinovac, where like it just busts through that protection, this is something where you just pop in a different RNA sequence, slightly different, and the approval should be pretty speedy. Like the flu vaccine is approved on changing antigens all the time. And that's a fully approved vaccine. So I think that like we are looking at a better future. It's just going to be another janky year.
Well, that's what a positive note to wrap up on, because I am so excited about the mRNA vaccine because of this because I mean, I shouldn't say never again, but basically there's not going to be a 10-year, 5-year wait for a vaccine, theoretically, like ever again. Ever again.
It's very possible that most of the things that are going to emerge in the future and some of the things that we have to deal with right now could be handled just like this. And we don't have to worry about attenuated live viruses escaping and maybe causing a problem. Like there's this very, very small number of polio cases that happen every year because of attenuated vaccine that ends up in the water systems in certain places and stuff. Right. Very, very rare, but it does have, it's like something like 300 cases worldwide every year or something, that is very, very small, but that's still a thing. We're never gonna have to think about that again. Then on top of that, like keep in mind that I'm also thinking about this from a slightly different perspective than a lot of other people. Including myself, there are people in my home that are really vulnerable. And so that changes my risk perception pretty standardly. But in terms of like, so I get that like for what you do, you probably want to be in a closed room as opposed to in an open space. Maybe that there's the dynamics of how people laugh and get along and communicate.
I will say even before COVID, I was actually looking into getting a large van-ish vehicle that I would use the side as a backdrop and set up a stage so that I would have the option to do things in parks and stuff. And that's only because my particular style through the years has went from like a setup punch late night kind of thing to more of a conversational sitting around the campfire sort of vibe.
Right.
So I can manage, but traditional stand-up comedy, if before COVID, you were like like a comic showed up to a room of like, say it was someone that was like, comedy, we'll have a comedy show and hire this comic, and then they went, okay, here's what we've done. We've distanced all the tables 10 feet apart. It's open air. We're going to put something over people's mouths to muzzle their laughter. And you'd be like, are you insane? You just did all of the wrong things for laughter is contagious, which is less contagious when you're distancing from a contagion. Well, you want low ceilings, people packed tightly together, uncomfortably so. Like it's
little
everything
itty bitty
wrong.
Imbalanced cafe tables.
Yeah,
that's what you need. Well, okay, so let me just say that I think that there's a couple of things that we're going to have to overcome generally. Just to first off, the future's always unknown. This just makes it more apparent, right? That the future's really unknown.
Of course.
So the future's always unknown. So that's my sunny point of view. The second thing is that I think that there's going to be some interesting adaptations that we can make. And I get that laughter is such a guttural thing and it involves your whole face. Mm-hmm. And that's hard, right, to communicate, especially in dark lit scenarios, how you feel about something if all you have are your eyes and muffled sounds underneath. Mm-hmm. That's tough. But I think there's some really interesting opportunities for us to think of other new ways to communicate. And there is going to come a point where there aren't going to be masks.
Yeah.
So this is maybe a time it's so hard, but I think that maybe this is some time for innovation. So one of the things that's happening for me personally right now is that my school board is telling me that if my kid doesn't go back to school in person, that's okay, except that they can only not opt in if they have been vaccinated, but they have some other condition that keeps them out. So my child can't be vaccinated by law. So this is forcing her to go to school. My kid does have conditions that would make it difficult for her to go to school safely. And so I'm looking at how am I going to teach from home a full load now on my own while still doing all the other things that I have to do. And it's been already however much time it's been, like 18 months of having to cope with other people teaching my kid, but in my home. So I'm trying to think about this from a sunnier perspective, which is like, maybe I just have to innovate how this is going to happen. In the state of Illinois, I just have to pull her out until the school she's pulled out. And then I'm going to have to come up with something, but maybe that's new and maybe it'll be a good thing overall. So that's very vague and not helpful specifically to comedy, but maybe the van thing is the way to go. I love that idea. I would totally see an act like that.